Hey, I'm Natalie Potts, and this is the Natalie Potts podcast. If you want to talk about your business, your life, your health, and more, then you are in the right place. We do it all with humour, love, and inspiration to help you create a life you love. So, let's dive in. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to have this conversation with you because I guess, like we just shared, actually, kind of don't know where it will go. But
my pleasure. I'm really excited.
So, share with us all about Sian and what you do.
So I am a therapist, have been for over 10 years. And what's brought me to becoming a menopause coach is that over 10 years ago, I was experiencing symptoms of, well, I didn't know what they were in my late 30s and was backwards and forwards to the GP, having really never been poorly before that ever. And I say poorly, but just things that I couldn't work out what was going on, from things like pins and needles to achy joints, just feeling really drained, felt like I'd been hit by a brick wall and just didn't know what they were, and kept going back to the doctors, was referred to different sort of consultants, and just was getting nowhere, to the point where about 7 years in, they decided, after me seeing a rheumatologist who basically just went, well, it must be fibromyalgia because it can't be anything else. So that was the diagnosis, if you like, that I was given. So I went away with that and just lived with it for a bit, but still wasn't sort of feeling, well, definitely wasn't feeling 100%, and just accepted that that's how it was going to be, and that I just need to sort of rest a lot and find different ways to manage those symptoms. But my periods, sorry to get a bit graphic, but my periods were still were very intermittent by this point. But the doctors were still saying, no, can't possibly be menopausal. This point, I'd never heard of perimenopause, didn't even know what it was. Didn't know that the menopause is actually just one day.
Yeah.
And just kept going back, and they said, no, you can't possibly be. And then about 18 months ago, I spoke to my GP about something else. A different GP, happened to be a lady GP, not spoken to her before. And I just happened to mention it. By this point, I've pretty much given up by having conversations with them because nothing was changing. And she said, well, you must be perimenopausal. And I was like, pardon? What do you mean? I don't know what that is. And she explained it, and I told her a little bit more about my symptoms, and she was like, oh yeah, you must be. And she said, how old are you? And by this point I was 51. And she said, yeah, gotta be, definitely. Do you want to go on HRT? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, please. And I went on HRT, and within, I kid you not, less than a month, my symptoms had pretty much disappeared. And I then recognized that I'd been suffering, and it was suffering, for over 10 years. I'd had fears of that I maybe had MS, that I had dementia, that my body was never going to be my own again. And it was just like someone switched a light on. But at the same time, Natalie, I was so angry because it didn't need to be like that. And I know that HRT isn't for everybody, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not someone who's ever going to preach to someone about whether it's right for them or not. It's different for everybody. But at the same time, I think everybody should have that choice. And there wasn't that choice for me. It was taken from me because no one wanted to accept that, because I was in my late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, that I could possibly be menopausal. So that choice was taken away from me. And for 10 years, I wasn't living the life I wanted to lead. And it's only now that I'm getting into coaching that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is who I'm supposed to be. And I feel like I want to support other women to have that opportunity to make sure that they know what's going on in their bodies, and that they get to live a life that's best for them, that works for them. And that they know they're educated enough that they can go to their GPs and have the confidence to go, no, I want to be put on HRT, or I want to know what my options are.
Yeah.
The problem is that with the menopause, basically up until very recently, only a quarter of medical schools in the UK actually taught about the menopause, which blows my mind, because when you think about that, 51% of the population are going to go through the menopause.
Yeah.
But only a quarter of medical schools are taught about it.
Yeah.
So that is changing, because there's some brilliant people out there that have been really fighting the fight to make sure that changes. And these people have managed to get it so that actually, I think it's from 2024 that all medical schools will have to provide this as part of basic training.
Yeah.
So that is brilliant. So so that's what brings me to where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I've made some points there because it's just getting me thinking different ways. It's so interesting, this idea of going back to right at the start where you talk about coaching and counselling as well. And how do you find, from a coach's perspective, the blend in helping somebody now or keeping them very two separate practices? How do you find that? Because that must be a real challenge as well. And also being very qualified in counselling in terms of experience, knowledge, to then almost feeling again like the newbie with something like coaching, but actually you're not, in terms of where other people would be as well. So how do you find how you create that connection with people in terms of what they need versus what they expect, and then yourself coming from both practices as well? How do you work with that?
So I guess that's a lot of things to unpack there, but in terms of my counselling, but I've been unconsciously competent. I think that's the right way of saying it. Being dyslexic, I always get the words back to front. So unconsciously competent is what I've been in counselling for some time. So going into coaching, I went into coaching thinking, oh, this will be not easy, but I'll get this because that's what I do. I listen to people all the time, but it's on a completely different level. And it's just so different. And I went from being unconsciously competent to competently. Oh my God, Natalie, you're going to have to tell me what it is now. My dyslexic brain's just gone crazy.
Keep going, it's good.
It's consciously incompetent. There we go. Knew I'd get there now. And that's what I've been in coaching for probably the first 6 months. And then it clicked and I was like, okay, I've got this now. Clearly got a long way to go to be unconsciously competent, but I'm getting there. And I think what happened off the back of sort of the therapy versus the coaching is that initially I was really scared of bringing the two together.
Yeah.
Because we talk about in the coaching academy, don't we, about the fact that they're very different. We've got to keep them separate.
Yeah.
But for me, those skills are going to be there. And my non-verbal listening skills are so tuned in that I'm very aware of people's limiting beliefs, people's blueprints. And it's working, and I'm still working on this in terms of how I bring the two together. What I really want to be able to do is do a blend. But what I love about coaching is the moving forward. And I love my counselling, and I've been working in trauma for a really long time, and I work on childhood trauma and sexual abuse, and that's the sort of things that I really enjoy doing. I've done it for a long time. But what I want to do is still do a bit on trauma and be trauma informed, but also to be a coach working with women who are moving forward in their lives and finding new purpose. And that has given me a new sort of, I don't know, it's like it's lit something in me that I hadn't realised needed lighting.
And is the menopause linked with that as well? Is that a part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, because of what I've been through, I'm really passionate about supporting women who are going through that journey, as we all will. And some of us will have a really easy time of it, and some of us will really struggle. And something that I was thinking about yesterday, I've thought about a few times, is that when as a counsellor, the number of years that I've worked with clients where they've come to me with anxiety and low mood and they've been on medication, and I'm absolutely for it. If that works for that person, that's really key. But the other thing that I've realised is that a lot of the women I've seen have been in their 40s and 50s and possibly didn't need to be on medication. Maybe what they needed is HRT. Maybe what they needed is their hormones replaced. for them to feel good about themselves again.
Yeah.
But also I'm the menopause self care coach. So a lot of what I do is around self care. And it's not just about, oh, let's sort of talk about your hormones and HRT, but let's talk about self care. And a lot of what we do in self care can really help with our hormones. So for me, it's about linking the two together. I don't know whether that answered your question. I think I went off at a tangent.
It's just really interesting because I get asked so much, how do you find your niche? It's a huge thing compared to definitely when I was coaching a few years back. And it's just interesting to see where people feel that need to have a niche, etc., and where that comes from, and how, you know, like helping people to just discover who they want to work with. And you've, I guess the conversation doesn't ever really come that way with yourself, because you've already established the fact that you've been on a path, and your pains and who you want to help come through that. And like you said, you know, it's who I'm supposed to be and to help women. And it's where you're credible, where you, again, like we say, talk about competencies, where you have energy and a passion for what you want to do. You know, you're curious, you're interested to go and learn and research and know more about it. And I think that's, you can see there that you're exactly that person of that journey, going through what you need to do to find who you want to work with, or identify is probably a better word than find. And what I love about that is the sharing apart on, the more we talk about things, you're saying some amazing people are doing some brilliant work to create more awareness. So, you know, self-awareness means that we have more development in things, which is great. And it's so interesting because we got onto the conversation a bit last week, talking about coming onto the podcast, that as I'm 35, and the conversation around this in some ways absolutely terrifies me, because it's not what I had before. And then you hear all of these things, you think, oh my goodness, is that me in like 5 years? And the pressures to then family, whatever I want in the next 5 to 10 years. It's like completely opens up a different pathway, or something I've not thought of. And almost ignorance is bliss, isn't it? That if I don't know, I don't have to worry. I don't want to worry about those things. Whereas actually, I know deep down, I'll worry less if I'm in, and I'll be better if I'm more in control of knowing and educated, like you say, on what does that look like, and making decisions that are right in terms of not having a decision in years to come. It's really interesting. And even at the age of 35, I've been recently changing some of my contraception and what I'm on and stuff, and like my hormones have been like up like that. And then what you say about self-care there, I was just like, it's really interesting, because I'm naturally really tough on myself in business, life, everything. And the same comes to that I would still be the attitude. A couple of years back, I was very much the attitude that it doesn't impact, I should still be able to train the same, I should have the same amount of energy. And it's really interesting, it'll be coming up to 2 years, the last 2 years, I noticed it in January time, my energy just massively depleted at certain points every month around a period, and it like ridiculously, to the point where I'd be like, I felt wiped out, and I couldn't train the same. The week before, I knew the week before I'd be like, I know I'm on, because I literally shot down. And I used to be really tough on myself, where you got to keep going, you still got to train to still got to show up. And now, because I'm more aware of it, I'm like, no, I know next week that this is the case, and actually I need to just relax. I need to do this program this week for my fitness, because it will keep me on track, and not, you know, all or nothing. Because I'd even be like, I'd just be wiped out and think, well, I can't do anything now. Then I'd be stressed, then I wouldn't sleep, and you just get in this cycle, and it's like, that's a painful cycle every month. So by having the space, like I'm doing now, to talk, to think, to express, to learn in areas that we're just not educated in, and we're probably scared in some ways, is unique to provide women, I think.
I absolutely. And I think the one thing that I love about the fact that menopause is being talked about now is that so many more women of a younger age are not going to go through what women in their 40s and 50s are going through now. However, what I'm also aware of is that the media makes it feel potentially very scary for a lot of women, but they're not giving out all the information. So I was talking to a friend the other day who's also a therapist, and she was sort of, because I'm going to be doing this course, and she said to me, I was telling her about it, and she said to me, she said, well, She said, but what is the menopause? When does that start? And she's in her late 40s. And she said, but I don't see myself as menopausal. So if I see that word, because she was helping me with a bit with my marketing, just doing a bit of research. And she said, but if you put the word menopause up there, I don't think that relates to me. And I thought, that's really interesting. And then when you listen to, I sometimes watch Loose Women because they're such great advocates of the menopause. And I was listening to one of the younger members of the panel talking, and she was saying, I don't think of this as being me, but I'm learning so much from you guys. But also, it's quite scary to think about the fact that I will be going through this, and I don't know how it's going to impact me. But I really do believe, like you were saying, in terms of self-care, what I love when I watch your stuff is that you're so in tune with your body. You really listen to that. And that is one of the biggest gifts we can give ourselves as well as human beings. But as women, we can really give ourselves that gift by really listening. And it's something that I'm still working on in terms of giving myself permission to go, do you know what, actually, this week you're wiped out. Whether it's to do with self-care in terms of exercise, or whether it's pulling back on studies, or whatever it might be, but to just give myself permission to go, but that's okay. But what I'm curious about is the fact that what you're saying is, it's really, you've got all these thoughts about these what ifs for the future and how you might manage that. I guess what I would say to anybody who's maybe your age and is thinking about, how they're going to plan for the future in terms of menopause, it's the right nutrition. It's about the right type of exercise. It's about self-care. When we allow ourselves to get stressed out and anxious in life, that causes our hormones to do a merry dance. Well, not merry, but do a dance. And it's not nice. So the more we can work on keeping our stress levels calm in situations where we feel like, as women especially, we feel like we've got to be the people who do everything and we're spinning all these plates, but to just let those plates drop sometimes and just be like, you know what, it's okay, I'm not going to stress, because I know if I stress, that's going to shoot my hormones off the scale, and then the result of that is that I'm going to feel like rubbish and I'm going to be no good to anybody. It's about that saying, isn't it? Like, you've got to put the face mask, the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can support anybody else. And that's a really tough thing to do for anyone. But as women, I think we find it really hard to do. So I don't know if that's helpful at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know you're looking to do a new program in the new year. Where's that idea originated? What's the big vision with what you want to have as a result for people with that, and achieving that? What's the purpose for you?
So I think the purpose is that when I started recognizing what was going on for me in the menopause, I realized that there's not a lot of women out there that are talking to each other as friends about their experiences. And what I wanted was to create a safe space initially for women to be able to have that conversation, which I'm doing through the online and in-person support groups. And it's been mind-blowing, sort of like hearing their stories and how much they benefit from just having that space. But the reason for the course was the fact that actually women want to be educated. As women, we do want to know stuff. We want to know how to deal with this. We want to understand what's going on in our own bodies. And GPs don't have the time to do that. And a lot of women, they're not going to go off and read all the books or do all the research. But if they've got one place where they can come to and go, oh, right, okay, that's what's happening in my body. And if I do A, B, and C, that's going to help. So in terms of me bringing the self-care in, it's about helping women to acknowledge the importance of prioritizing self-care and looking at which hormones are linked to which parts of self-care, and that's really key for me in terms of the menopause and self-care coming together, but not just the menopause. Although it's called the Menopause Self Care and Mindset course, it's for any woman that sort of thinks they're becoming perimenopausal, because like you said, it's not, I want to help prepare women, not just women that are already postmenopausal, because menopause is just one day. I don't know how many people know that, but the menopause is actually just one day. We're perimenopausal for 10 to 15 years for some of us. Some of us are less, but 10 to 15 years. And menopause is one day, which is the day that your periods you haven't had a period for 12 months.
Yeah.
So we don't know, we don't get to celebrate that day. And that's the other thing that I want to bring from this course, is celebrating the fact that this next chapter of our lives, there's a lot out there about, oh my God, this is horrible, this is the worst part of our lives. I don't feel like that. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get to do all these things and I'm not going to ever have a period again. Woo! You know, that's amazing, you know, but for some people it's really scary, and not knowing where to go and what path to go down. So having a space where they get to be educated, they get to learn about why self-care is important, they understand about our mindset and how our limiting beliefs come into it. And even though we might have this want for self-care, that all the stuff from the past comes in to sort of prevent us from prioritizing ourselves. So understanding all of that in a safe space with other women who are going, that's exactly how I feel, or I'm feeling like that, just feels like a great, and I'm trying to create a course that I wanted. That's what I'm trying to do.
And that's so important when you do things. I think there's a point where you have to understand what your ideal clients want, and then what they need. But you're right that comes from a place of, and I share this a lot with people, that you're often your own ideal client, but that we have to be careful not to get assumptive in that we know the answer to what people want and need, etc. Again, the spin on how you can market and monetize a message, like you said, the language and how it becomes another challenge. I think what's great within that is that you recognize the power, and we talk about it a lot in the personal development we've got, that you don't, it's about creating that space just for people to, again, think. I think, we're in a busy world, we're not so distracted, we're living by almost that productivity's a science, is aligned to our self-worth. If we're not busy, we're lazy, or we're bored, or it's not enough, we've got to be productive all the time. And it's like, actually, when we slow things down, we speed up. And it's a phrase I say a lot. And
I love that phrase. I use that so much now. I've heard you saying it.
So powerful, though. And it really is, because I'm that Speedy Gonzalez, next. And actually what you do is you miss the moment in life where you are as well. And actually important things as we move forward. And I think being in coaching world, you can get smokes and mirrors in a way that's not good, but you can also get it in a way that's amazing. But you become quite cocooned in a world of people that you get. I've got an amazing abundance of positive people, inspirational people in my life. And somebody challenged me last week, actually, on, if you were to suddenly win £1 million or get to £1 million in your business and you bought a yacht or a Ferrari, would your close circle of like family and friends, would they all still be around? And I took a moment, I was like, yeah. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, they would. And they were like, oh. And I said, look, everybody might think, oh, lucky one or something, like lucky cow. I was like, naturally you do. I said, but they'd all be happy for me. And she was like, oh, wow, well, that's kind of like one big step forward anyway. And I was like, yes, but I guess I've done that groundwork years ago, and it was tough to say, actually, this person doesn't help me in my life anymore. It's not a personal thing, just I don't know, we're the same as we were, and it's maybe that we've just got different journeys now in life, and it's all the best. And you have to sometimes cut those strings. So, but I've noticed that then around me, I can have very positive, inspirational people. I get to see that lots of people don't have that. And I take that for granted. And that's the thing with, like you're saying, is we always think, well, there's this and there's that, and what else can I put out? What you have as a coach is uniquely different from somebody else, and your idea of creativity. And with 7.24 billion people in the world, there are people that we can help. And this is where I always want to open coaching minds up, or anybody that wants to build a business. If you've got that deep niggling feeling, just keep going with it, trust yourself in that, and build something, like you said, that was something you wish you'd have and you love. Because when you love what you do, that energy and that infectious energy, you can't buy that thing.
And it's interesting when you say all this, because that's so true, but I have so much self-doubt, and it's the passion of when I talk to you and I say, I know this is going to support women, I'm sort of doing something that I know I would have wanted. I've run a free pilot group earlier in the year, and I got brilliant feedback from that. The in-person and the online support group, I'm getting really great feedback from that. But at the same time, I'm still, and even when you say there's 7 point however many billion people in the world, I'm still going, is this going to work? And I want it to work. Obviously, I want my business to go in this direction, but at the same time, there's all the values that go with that. One of the values is to gain better financial security for myself and my family.
Yeah.
But the other values that came before that were connecting with people, communication, supporting others. They're really important to me. And one of the things I was reading, I can't remember which book it was now, but it was all around the fact that, it's okay wanting financial security, but if that's the only thing, then you're not going to, I think it might have been something Stephen Bartlett said actually. And if that's the only thing you're focused on, you won't get where you want to go, because the other things aren't there to underpin it. And that's the big change that's happened for me, is those values have always been there. I just didn't bring them center forward. To sort of know that, to keep me bringing back to, that's why I'm doing this. And if the other stuff comes as a result of that, brilliant.
Yeah. It's incredible how the conversation can, and this is where I said to you, like, I'm not a big person on liking loads of structure of a conversation. I think you can just trust what comes from within and just go with it. And you're absolutely spot on. I'm huge myself on business values, personal values, and I love the phrase you say there about bringing that center forward. I'm reading a book at the moment, Storyteller's Secret by Carmen Gallo. He does a lot around TED Talks and this idea of storytelling, and storytelling connects us, and mention connection as well. And I was also I was with the Coaching Academy on a coaching conversation yesterday, and they said, what's been your podium moment for the year? And also, what is your word for 2022? And I said, my word for 2022 is connection, because there's been such a journey to connect with my inner self, like me, and to connect with others. And that when you focus on values of business, and don't get me wrong, like, I like the finer things in life. I know you've got to work hard for them, and money is one for me, because it brings me opportunities and freedom and choice. However, it's the why I do what I do, and the fact that nothing, that's great, but if I focus wholeheartedly and everything that I have on serving people, that's what gets me the results and brings me money. The money's the latter part. Invest in why you love what you do, and your why with everything. And like Simon Sinek says, always start with your why and your values, and serving people and adding value and touching their lives in a way. And that's massively missing from the world at the minute. My dad and I were having a conversation this morning that people are getting a bit fed up in business, and with everything that's happening in the world, it's a tough place to live at the moment, and it's because they don't feel valued. And again, if you can take away this idea of creating a program for people where actually you feel valued as well, and that how that links in with being around like-minded people, sharing things, feeling trust, that you're listened to as well, that you have a voice. These things are so incredibly powerful that I think we take for granted, are just out there, like I said earlier, and they're not for so many people. So another thing in this book Carmen Gallo spoke about was, if you can't always find that, like what do you do, or your why is enough for you, ask the question, like, what makes your heart sing? As cliche as that sounds, but it is what makes your heart sing, what literally would get you out of bed every morning to go, it's going to be a bit tough today, but I love what I do and I want to do this. And it's that, again, that energy. You can't buy this energy that's around people that are like that. Seeing truly inspirational people, that spark in them, that shining, you can't buy that. It's just there. And the more you, again, it's like law of attraction, isn't it? The more you exude that, the more you draw those people towards it. So it's almost a bit like you have to go into your geeky woo-woo side of you, even if it's not that, to think, like you say about self-doubts, and I know you often share around this, but it's like, that's where I think coaches and mentors are so powerful, because they'll see something in you that you don't see at times. And I know I've seen this, and they'll draw on me that I'm being tough on myself. There's not enough of, like you say, self-love, self-care, that, you need a bit of a truth bomb. I need that to remind me, to help me feel that actually, when I have my self-doubts, that, no, you've got this.
No, it's so, I think as human beings, we're so bad at prioritizing ourselves and focusing in on what we need, and acknowledging that, you know, self-care is so key. And, you know, my self-doubt has been huge. Yesterday I was doing a film advert for my landing page, I think. Is that what it is? I don't know. I'm really rubbish with tech. And oh God, like, I wish I could use what I've used with you today instead, because it was so like, you know, just like really, just really monotone. And it was just because I was put in that situation. But listening to you talking and then hearing it back, it's like, no, I am really passionate about this, and this is really important. And I just need to, you know, I was worried about what people might think I look like. Did I sound animated enough? What are people? All these things that you think about, that in terms of the business side of it, that you don't normally think about in life, all come into play all of a sudden, because you're worried. Well, I am worried about, are people going to think this is good enough? Are people going to want to invest? Are they going to think it's too expensive? Are they going to think I'm qualified enough? Am I an expert enough? You know, all these things that 18 months ago I would not even thought about in my counselling business, because I just plodded along. But then chuck those values under my backside, and it's like I'm this different woman, but a different woman that is really like wanting to promote this, and for people to be positive and inspired. But at the same time, there's all these self-doubts that keep coming in, which is just crazy. But I think the bigger I get, not the bigger I get in terms of the business, but the bigger I get in terms of my ideas, the more self-doubt comes in. I don't know whether that's how other people experience it. I don't know, but
I think like bigger problems that, you know, like I was talking to my mum about it, and bless her, she's like, some of the stuff goes over her head when I talk about business and everything. But she was like, oh, it just gets easier when you get bigger. And I was like, no. I was like, the problems just get bigger.
Yeah.
Right, you know, I said, like, you know, different conversations, it just gets tougher in different ways. Yes, it can get great as well in different ways, but it's that's like anything. I think
more to think about.
There is, but I think that the part of, you need that support around you yourself as well, in empowering you, and almost a bit of, you know, we often, I don't think we should shy away from saying, like, we need validation to a degree. Because, you know, it's the point of, you don't need it to the point of you don't move on if you don't get validation, or you're constantly seeking it. Like, I'm not saying throw loads of selfies on Instagram just to get the likes and things. But we do need to feel on track with things, or to be able to, I think, measure things, not necessarily compare, but again, measure things in terms of, how do I know how I'm doing? And I was really conscious of that into my business. And if I don't have mentors and coaches around me, bearing in mind I've come from a very corporate structured background, how do I know that I'm on track, or, you know, doing well on things, versus then too hard on myself, etc. And I guess it comes back to the self-awareness of what you need.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am now. This time last year was when I applied to do the TCA course, and I started it in January. And I've met so many amazing people along that journey, and I can't believe it's not even been 12 months and I've met all these amazing people online, but still, you know, amazing. And yourself and a couple of the Coaching Academy students, you know, I wouldn't be where I am now with the course in terms of pushing it forward if it wasn't for that coaching, if it wasn't for the mentoring, if it wasn't for listening to you on your podcasts and on Instagram and whatever it is. I watch you, I'm not sure, all the other platforms. But, you know, those things are the things that have pushed me. And you're so right, you know, recognizing that, you know, you need those people around you, but also weeding out the people who aren't going to work for you, and doing that without me being me. I worry about the fact that that's going to affect them or upset them, but really going, actually, but I know that's not working for me, and working out who is working and who isn't working.
Absolutely.
But you know, somebody once said to me, when you go into business on your own, you need that team around you. And even if it's just in your mind, you know, I've got a friend who's a counsellor, who's been a counsellor for years, and she's only just gone self-employed. in the last sort of 6 months, and she has a list on her board, because I'd sort of said to her, it's about having a team, knowing who your team is, and she has a list on her wall now of people that she can call for different things. And that's the same for me, is knowing who those people are. Like today, I was meant to be doing something with somebody tomorrow, and they can't do it now, and I was like, oh, how am I going to deal with this? And I managed to message somebody else, and she went, oh yeah, I'll do that with you. And I was like, oh great, and that's what I love about the coaching community as well, is people are so supportive of each other, and I don't think you get that in every area of life. So it's a really lovely space to be a part of.
Yeah, I guess to kind of throw it out there, it's an interesting one, and it's one question that I think I always hold with loosely, because it's not easy to ask people, what do you, I guess, where do you see yourself and your business and taking this idea of what we've spoken about today in 5 years' time? It's not always an easy question to ask nowadays, because the world moves so fast, but to see that vision and what you've created, what would that be?
So what I would love to be able to do is have 2 or 3 courses running over a year for 12 weeks. But also I'd love to run an in-person retreat. I think when I say that to women, all women just go, oh yes, please, that's amazing. Definitely need that in my life. So that's on my radar. But also one thing I'd love to do one day is give a TED talk. I'm just not quite sure what it's going to be around yet, but that's on my radar. But just to keep my vision and my passion is to just keep supporting as many women as possible. And their other halves, which I haven't really talked about much, but helping educate people and to build awareness around the importance of self-care. Because I think we just see it as this woolly word, but it really isn't. So being able to do that, and hopefully in 5 years' time, be able to do some in-person stuff as well, would be amazing. Because that's part of my background is giving talks to people in person. So I would love to be able to get back to that. That would be really great, and to be doing more of this. And I can't believe that this might actually be my job, not even my job, I can't even say it as a job, but this might be my life moving forward. It's really exciting.
It's incredible, isn't it? Like, again, communication is key, and it's a bit of a joke that I've told a few people, but I've recently got in the last 4 months a relationship and that, and I made him do this profiling personality assessment, and some people are like, I can't believe he did that, but I was like, no, because take out the worky stuff on it. I said, but all relationships are about great communication. And what I mean by that is, I remember listening in lockdown to Lewis Howes and Mel Robbins on a podcast, and they shared that in all relationships we don't share with people what we need and expect as well enough, and especially what we need. Like, this is what I need, and it's same as it's just about opening communication to why we do what we do and how we are, as why we do those things. And someone's like that, but you'll do things because of that, and I can now understand that better, and I'm asking you to understand it. If I need some me time, or if I need, like, that actually like I said to him, like, last week I was a bit emotional with stuff, and it's because I've noticed my hormones changing things. I just keep with me this week. I know I'm a bit like emotional one minute and not the next, and I don't know why. In my head I don't know, and it's horrible. But I am a bit fiery. I didn't have much patience with people last week, and it kind of made me emotional. And I was like, because it didn't feel me. I was literally getting fiery with people that were strangers. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm not blaming that, but it's that recognition again of the awareness to then change it, etc., and notice yourself. And that's where I think that's,
and it's not a blame, it's a reason, Natalie, isn't it? Those hormones are pesky buggers.
It's the communication part is key, and I think that goes back to like about what you want and growing that with connection, and I love the idea of a retreat. I was talking with somebody in one of the business masterminds I'm on this last week, and it was a great conversation. Actually, we were talking about an event we'd seen in London, and I said, oh, are you going? She said, no, I went yesterday, I'm not going today. And I said, okay. She goes, I can't deal with the formalities of the rooms in the hotel. It's just not me at the minute. Like clinical, like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel that way too. And I was like, times. And then was like, I don't feel that way anymore about, like you said, the idea of a retreat is like bliss.
Mm,
Again, it's going back to knowing what you need and want and yourself really well. And then
yeah,
attracting the right people with that as well, that you don't have to follow suit on what everybody else does. And it's great. You got to listen to that internal niggling, as we said at the start, to why you want to do what you do, and that you
yeah,
can help people. There are people out there. You just got to get out there, find them, add value, make a difference in their lives. And it's like that ripple effect and the snowball effect. It just builds and compounds over time when you're consistent with things.
yeah,
So I think that
yeah, absolutely.
it's got, an abundance, be amazing, and it'll be phenomenal. And it's so interesting to think about for myself of, well, actually, what am I doing around that? Am I still putting it off, or is it that it's next year or 2 years down the road, or what? How do I want to embrace this and look at it for myself, opposed to fearing it, and
Yeah.
the different conversations that come from it? It's so interesting. And like you say, though, what I love about doing the podcast and having different connections like I do with yourself and my personal development circle and in the like Facebook community is that, like you can angle
Mm.
people. That's not my gig, that's not what I do.
Yeah,
Person's
absolutely.
amazing,
It's
or
fine. Yeah,
this person's got this person's got this on this, and like
yeah,
that's what I always did well in my previous career, was I networked and expanded my network so well. Like I go to people for these problems and I get stuff done quick, and I love that.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it's the same, that like people for great things, in terms of we all want results tomorrow.
yeah,
And quickly. And that helps people with that. So I think when you have that network around you as well, of actually this person be amazing for you, you're also changing lives with this.
yeah, definitely. And that's the bit that I really love about it, is that I'm helping people to live their best lives. And that's so key to me, is having, going full circle to where we started at the beginning. For 10 years I
Mm.
wasn't living the life I could have been living,
Yeah,
and that was down to a misdiagnosis.
yeah,
And that drives me crazy to think that, other women are going through that, and I know they are. I know that's happening. And if I can help women to be more in tune with what's happening in their own bodies and have more knowledge, then I'm happy. I've done what I set out to do, and anything else that comes as a result of that is just a bonus, really.
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I have a little bit of a thing. I haven't. I'm so on this and doing it well. Sometimes I'm absolutely rubbish, but the last guests I had on actually will sync with this, because I can roll this podcast out next. So, they asked a couple of questions, and I'm going to ask them to yourself, because it was two, so I've got two for you, and then
Okay.
I need to share one for our next guest. But it's always sometimes interesting. But this is a really great question. I'm going to again use this in different places, in some of my content, what I do later on. But if you were to look back 20 years, would you, imagine 20 years times and you were to look back today,
Okay.
would you be worrying about what you're worrying about now?
Oh, interesting. Would I be worrying about what I'm worrying about now? No, because I'll be 72 and I don't think I'm going to give two shits by then.
So we can let go of all those self-doubts, right?
I'm going to let go of it all. God, I want to get 2023 is my year to let go of it. That's my year. This is my year coming up. Definitely.
I love it.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, I will not be giving two. Yeah,
It's a great
by
question,
then.
isn't it? When you really think about it, it's like, no.
I really love it. Yeah.
Another one was, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
Oh, still here, Anglesey, North Wales.
Love.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's nowhere like it. It's a beautiful place. I'm very, 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 very lucky to live here. Yeah. I wouldn't, yeah. I'd like to go on holidays,
Yeah.
but I would when I come over that bridge, when I've been away, it's like, oh, I'm home. It's just such a
And
great
it's that
feeling.
important. Like, again, I'm a big seeker this year in kind of finding calm, contentment, and just, like, what is it to be happy with what we have right now
Mm,
in the moment,
yeah,
opposed to like
yeah,
working for next. As much as we share
yeah,
stuff we want to do, and
yeah,
this time being able
yeah,
to be happy, successful, and content here in the now, I think it's
yeah,
hard for people.
yeah.
Really
And one
hard.
of the things I absolutely love is that, I haven't been for a couple of weeks that much, but one thing I love to do is there's a little walk near where I live. And when I do go, I work on being really mindful and in the moment. And every time I do it, I just go, oh my gosh, it just fills my soul so much. And that sounds a bit hippy dippy, and I don't mean it to be,
That's
but
nice.
it does genuinely make me feel good.
Yeah.
And if I start my day having been on that particular walk, my day feels better for having done it. And it's not a walk for fitness, it's a walk for mental health, it's a walk for my mind, and it just sets me up in such a great way for the day. So yeah.
Be your question you would leave?
Oh, there's two sorts of ones that I'd like to ask. And obviously you're putting me on the spot here, Natalie, as I know you do with most people. I should have known that you were going to do this, but there we go. One is I'd like to know from everybody, do they know when their parent, if they have a parent or a carer, anyone in their lives, do they know when their menopause started? And if not, would they be interested in having that conversation with them?
Yeah.
And the second one is, when did you last take time to prioritize yourself?
Yeah. Interestingly, I did think about that, about my mum and my auntie. I was like, actually, I've never had the conversation with my mum and my auntie. And I know they sit and have the conversation because I've seen them like,
that's good. That's great.
And now I'm thinking about, wonder what that conversation would look like of me, my cousin, mum, my auntie. Be really nice.
Brilliant. Awesome. Get on it. That sounds fab.
I'd love it.
That's one of the things I forgot to say. That's one of the things that I'm wanting to do next year, is I want to create a podcast with normal women. You see celebrities talking on podcasts all the time about the menopause, but I want to create a group where you have 2 or 3 women in a room with me talking about their experiences of the menopause, to put that out for women to listen to. So that's the other thing that I want to do.
Amazing. Where can people connect with you, Sian?
On Instagram at my Menopause Self Care Coach, and on Facebook the same.
Amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for your time today. I love conversations with yourself, and it's so interesting. And I know you're going to be a success at this, and happy doing it. And I can't wait to see everything come to how you want it to, in your vision and everything next year. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie. I've really enjoyed this. I was a bit apprehensive, but it's been awesome. I've loved it. My first ever podcast. So hey. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you felt inspired, please make sure you share this with a friend and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. I really love hearing feedback from you. So if you have a question, topic, or want to hear from someone you love on this show, then head to my website, Natalie Potts Coaching, and let me know. Until next time, have an amazing week and know that you have value to offer this world.